Hi, I'm Rob from robnonphoto.com, and today I'm going to be talking about Redscale 35mm film photography. If you're into film photography, or you're thinking about taking it up, you're a new starter or you're a seasoned expert, Redscale is another aspect of film photography that you can really easily explore and have fun with. And I guess before we start, what I'll explain is what Redscale photography is, and what will happen is at the end of the video I'll show you some examples of what you can get out. Well, quite simply, Redscale photography is where you use your film, but what you do is you turn the film round the other way in the canister, but don't worry, I'm going to show you how to do that really easily, so that when the when the film's in your camera, like this, obviously the canister can only go in one way, but because we flipped the film around the other way inside the canister, what that actually means is the light is hitting the film in the wrong order. Now you might say, well, what difference does that make? Well, colour film is actually quite a complicated beast. Even though we're into digital photography now with sensors that they're absolutely massive, film is really quite special in the fact that the different layers of the film pick up different types of light, red, green and blue. I might have got those colours slightly wrong. So what happens is, if the film is in the wrong way, the light hits the film in the wrong order. And I think red is normally the last thing the light hits, and now it's going to be the first. So what happens is we end up with photos that can be gloriously red or orange or yellow. It's the sort of thing you could describe as being a similar idea to cross-processing, where you buy slide film and then process it at your normal colour lab. But the beauty with this thing is that colour print film, sort of 35mm, is pretty cheap, isn't it? I mean, this stuff, this Agfa Photo 200, I pick up from our local Poundland store for £1, so it's really easy. And basically all you do is flip the film over in the canister, which again I'll show you in a minute how to do. It's very, very, very simple. And then the type of camera you use actually can be quite important. You probably want to use an older film camera where you can manually change the ISO. Now the ISO is how sensitive it is for film, but don't panic, it's very, very simple. So for example, on this old Pentax K1000, on the control dial on the top, you can set the ISO to whatever you like. Now, because we're shooting through the wrong side of the film, we're shooting through not only in the wrong order, but we're also shooting through something called the anti-halation layer, which stops the light bouncing around inside the camera. Because we're doing that, the film is less sensitive as well. So you tend to, the kind of advice on the internet is to go down 2 stops. So what that means is, so this is 200 speed film, so I need to treat it 2 stops slower. So one stop would be 100 speed film, another stop would be 50 speed film. So I really want to treat this as 50 speed film. So even though it's ISO 200 or ASA 200, I set my camera to 50 ISO or ASA, and that means that if your camera's got a meter in it, it will then treat it like 50, and you'll get properly exposed photographs. So something like an old SLR will do. Olympus Strip 35s are very good as well, because with these you can go down to, I think, ISO 25 or something silly. Let's have a look. Yeah, we can go down to ISO 25, so this will shoot Redscale film all day. Now, I did actually, the example photos you'll see at the end of the video were actually shot using my Olympus Strip 35. But the one thing I did notice from the testing I did, the playing around, was that it seemed to be shots where the subjects were lit by the sun seemed to come out the best, where they weren't in shade. Because if you had lots of contrast, say a backlit subject, then you tend to get a lot more silhouetting than you would normally get. Now, so talking about camera still, so if you use this sort of camera to do your film photography, a simple compact, this might not be the best thing, because the way that these work is, in order to decide which ISO that they're going to shoot at, they actually read the DX coding on the film there. There's some little contacts inside. You can probably see them actually. I won't open this up because it's got some film in it, that would be a bit stupid. But they have some little contacts inside which read that, so you with this type of compact you can't actually change the ISO. So what you would have to do, and if you can read this up on the internet, you can actually scratch out the silver on the back of canisters to make it an ISO, say 50 film. However, what you may well find is simple compact cameras only really run at a couple of ISOs. You might find that it only really runs at ISO 400 and 200, and the shutter speed and aperture combination doesn't let it do anything else. So these little plastic compacts, probably not the best type. The other cameras, you might find it quite tricky to do Redscale film to kind of to expose it correctly, would be fully automatic or modern film SLRs, like a Canon EOS film SLR or a Nikon one, ones where you don't set the ISO on the camera. Now with those cameras, often if you have a look in the manual, and remember you can get old manuals from butkus.org, you might find that there's a way to manually set the ISO, so that way, as I say, you can take your 200 speed film and shoot it as 50 speed, which is what I'll be doing with this roll in the Pentax K1000. I mean, you're not going to want to be doing your Redscale film at somebody's wedding if you want to really have keepers. You know, it's all about experimenting, having fun, creating different pictures. You can buy Redscale film already turned around from lomography and people like that, but you know, use cheap film, experiment with different types of film in different lighting conditions, and you get lots and lots of different effects. One thing I should mention as well is when you take it to the lab to be developed, if you get your film developed at a lab, it's often an idea to tell them that the pictures will come out very red. Because they may try, if they're conscientious, they may try on their film scanner to correct the colours for if you're having any prints done or having a CD done, because they can do that, they can change the colour bands. But if you say, look, it's okay film, all that's going to happen is when it's developed it could be very red and very orange, but please don't change the colours for me, and then they won't do that as well. The other thing you can do, which I'll probably mention in a minute when I show how to do the film, is when you roll it all the way back into the canister, try and leave it so the little bit is sticking out, so when the lab technician goes to attach it to like the header that goes through the machine, he doesn't have to try and open it up. Because we're flipping the film around the other way, it's going against the curl, so it can make it a little bit more tricky to get out. But apart from that, you know, just treat it as normal, have a bit of fun, and you may be very surprised with the results you get. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to move the camera, and then I'm going to show you how we turn the film around so it's around the wrong way, so we can shoot Redscale film. Okay, so what you can see here is basically the things we need to make some Redscale film. We've got some scissors, some sellotape, a new roll of film, and an old roll of film, but with the end of the header, or the end of the film still, it's not the header, I guess it's the back bit, isn't it, still sticking out now. If you haven't got any of these, if you go to your local film lab and say, have you got any film canisters, guaranteed they'll have loads of them, because normally they just kind of send these off for recycling. And when you actually get your film developed, you can always say, look, can you pop the film canister in with any spares you've got as well, so you've got this little bit, because that's what we're going to be fixing our film to. Now, what we've also got here is a dark bag. You don't have to have a dark bag, but the process where we move the film from one canister to the other has to be done in the dark, otherwise obviously we're going to expose it, and that's going to be no good at all. And then we've got our little film cameras. We've got the Olympus Strip 35 or the Pentax K1000, being fully manual, are great for shooting Redscale film, because as I said before, if your film is originally 200, you need to shoot it as a 50, overexpose it by 2 stops. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to snip off the lead a bit here to make it nice and straight, like so. And what the aim is to fix the film together. In fact, I didn't do a particularly good job there, so I'm just going to have another crack at that. The straighter it is, the better, because what we don't want is a situation where there's a bit of a ridge, because that can get jammed inside your camera and cause all sorts of trouble. So what we're going to do is we're going to have We're going to join those two like that, or it can be like that, but notice the two nubbins are sticking up, so the film is going from facing that way out to being that way in, so we're reversing it. So let's take a little bit of sellotape off. Just going to put that onto there. Again, making sure the two bits are the same way up. I'm going to be very carefully put them together. Fold that over. There we go, nice. And for good luck, I'm just going to add a little bit on the back as well. Now the first bit you're actually going to be able to see, because watch, see, I'm just rolling that out. I'm just going to give it a hand just to get passy. There we go, so that's gone in. Now what we're doing inside the dark bag, or underneath the bed covers, or in your bathroom at night, remember it's got to be completely black, is just hold on to that and just turning it, and it's going to be taking the film from that one and putting it to that one, and it's reversing it round. Sometimes you might find it easier to put like a screwdriver or a pair of scissors in there, because there's a couple of little bits that they can jam into to help you turn it. But I'm going to stop turning it now because I don't want to expose any of the film. I'm going to put them in the dark bag, and you'll see in a second when we do the final bit. Okay, so as you can see, we've now transferred all of that film into this canister in the dark bag, or again, as I say, you can do it completely in dark, do it at night, underneath the covers, just so there's no light at all to spoil it. So now what we need to do is create a new header so we can load it into the camera. Now don't worry about exposing a bit of the film, because we're going to expose it anyway. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut off our original one, but remember I'm going to leave a bit on so that we can use that for another Redscale canister should we wish. So that can now go to one side. And now we have our film. Now notice how the curl goes the wrong way. That can make it a little bit fiddly when you load it into your camera, but don't worry. So the next thing, if you can remember, film headers, they look like that, don't they? So now all we need to do is we can actually use our old one as a guide. We can make a basic. There we go, there's our film. It's already good to go. I'm going to get my K1000, stick it in. It's probably going to be a bit odd, this one. Yeah, as I said, because it goes the wrong way, sometimes loading can be a little bit fiddly. Let's see what we can do. In fact, what I'm probably going to say is I'm not going to muck around trying to load this on camera. Now remember, whenever you're loading film into a camera, the way that you know it's properly loaded is after you've wound it on a little bit, you should see that start to spin round. So there we go. What we've done there is we've created our own Redscale film using just any cheap film we've got laying around, or go to Poundland and get some that way. And just remember, because my film was 200, I need to overexpose it by a couple of stops. So on the K1000, for example, I don't know if you can see it there, I'm just going to pull this up and adjust the ISO to, well, we've got 64, well, in between, there we go, so it's somewhere between 64 and 30, so they're around about ISO 50, so I should get some pleasant shots. Well, there we go, that's my little guide, my little tutorial to shooting Redscale film. Hope it encourages you to have a go. Remember, if you've got any questions, just contact me. My name's Rob Nunn from robnunphoto.com. Thanks for watching.